All right, let's shift our focus to this story now. There are calls for the president to exclude people implicated in state capture from his executive. Ezekiel Kekana from the Helen Suzman Foundation says he can affect this when he reshuffles his cabinet. He says this will be in line with the recommendations of the Zondo Commission. But the pertinent questions remain. Will he do so? Well, let's speak to Kekana, who joins us now from Pretoria. Ezekiel, good morning and thank you very much for your time. Now, as per reports this weekend, the president has concluded talks with the ANC's alliance partners on the reconfiguration of his cabinet. Now, you're saying the president, at the very least, what he should do is consider to remove those who are said to be beneficiaries of state capture from his executive. Just unpack this for us.
Good morning, Fundo, and good morning to the viewers. Well, the president has been telling us that he will implement the recommendation of the state capture report. And this imminent cabinet reshuffle gives him an opportunity for him to be able to do that. And I'm saying that he has an opportunity to fire Minister Mantashe, Deputy Minister Makwetla, and also Deputy Minister Kodwa, because they've been fingered in the state capture report as having been beneficiaries of the proceeds of the state capture project.
What of the direct recommendation, or what was stated in the state capture, was that they recommend that law enforcement further investigate, not necessarily that they were fingered, because this is something that these three that you mentioned in particular have relied on and said actually at this point there's nothing, because all that the State Capture Commission did was to recommend that there be further investigations to establish if there was indeed some sort of corruption there. Well,
the mere fact that the commission made mention of the fact that there have to be investigation tells us that the three cannot still be safe as ministers and deputy ministers. Their integrity and their conduct is now questionable. So they cannot, as ministers and deputy ministers, still serve. They need to go out and ensure that they deal with the matters before they can serve at the highest level as ministers and deputy ministers.
This was always a low-hanging fruit beyond the publishing of the state capture report. If the president intended to perhaps remove them from his cabinet, he could have done so, but it seemed this particular revelation did nothing. He was not somebody that was willing. So what would make you think at this point the president would perhaps be convinced to remove them from his executive?
Well, this is the first cabinet reshuffle after the state capture report. So now he has the information about the conduct of Mantashe and also that of Kodwa and Makwetla. So now he has more information about what they may have done. So he can now act on those recommendations.
Insofar as Deputy Minister Makwetla is concerned, as far as we remember, what he stated was at some point he was even willing to pay back the money, but he was told by the late Mr. Watson that he can perhaps donate it to charity. But he had always held the view that it was not a conflict of interest, according to him at the very least. What did you make of that?
Well, the commission stated in the report that they find very scary that Mr. Makwetla could not see a conflict of interest, because what happened is that he received the security upgrades while he was a deputy minister of the department that Busasa did the business with. So there it is, the conflict of interest kind of like comes up, because you cannot do, you cannot have security upgrades from a company that does business with the department that you are a deputy president with, deputy minister with.
And then the president, if he doesn't heed the call to remove the individuals, a great number of them that have been fingered in the state capture report, what do you think it would do for his presidency going forward?
Well, it will tell us that he is not a man of his word, because in his response to the recommendation, he did mention that he is forced to implement the recommendation and all the suggestions that the report made. So if he doesn't do that, then it tells us that he's not a man of his way.
But even with cadre deployment, at the very least, there were recommendations to perhaps look into it. And it seems the ANC has been defiant in that respect, saying cadre deployment is something that is done by all political parties. It's something that is even done internationally. Perhaps they don't give it that particular term of cadre deployment, but in most political parties, there would be those that sit somewhere in a committee and decide who to deploy into government. So in instances like that, where we saw that particular recommendation not being dealt with comprehensively, do you really believe that they would deal with this particular call?
Well, I think the president has an opportunity to show us as citizens of this country that he is a man who respects the constitution, he's the man who respects the work that Zondo has done. And if he does respect that, then he will have to implement the recommendations that were made by Zondo and ensure that those that have been fingered in the report are not serving in the executive.
And then just to the most recent developments, your views on the fallout between Andre de Ruyter and the African National Congress and just those explosive allegations.
Well, as a foundation, we don't really want to venture into that because those are political issues that I think the ANC and Mr. de Ruyter have to deal between themselves. So as a foundation, we don't like to involve ourselves in such matters. We are involved in this matter because we believe that the president has to ensure that what Zondo and his team have done have to be implemented.
But the allegations themselves would be of a criminal nature. Your views then on just those allegations?
Well, they have to be investigated. The law enforcement agency have to investigate. And if Mr. de Ruyter has enough evidence, he must go and report the issues.
Ezekiel, thank you very much for your time this morning. That was Ezekiel Kekana, researcher at the Helen Suzman Foundation.